You don't need loud confidence, you just need steady support from within. Fear often attaches itself to a story about what might go wrong, what others might think, or what you might lose. Most of these stories are exaggerations, they're worst-case scenarios written in panic. One of the best ways to break fear is to ask yourself, what is the actual risk here, and can I handle the outcome if it doesn't go well? Usually, the real answer is yes. You might be uncomfortable, but you won't be destroyed. You might feel awkward, but you'll recover. When you face that truth, fear begins to loosen its grip. You also need to be honest about how fear disguises itself. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism, where you wait until conditions are ideal before taking action. Sometimes it looks like procrastination, where you distract yourself with easier tasks. Sometimes it looks like overthinking, where you stay stuck in preparation and never begin. Recognizing these patterns allows you to interrupt them. It allows you to stop waiting for the fear to go away and start acting despite it. There's a kind of confidence that only comes from doing the thing you thought you couldn't do. It doesn't come from imagining it or talking about it. It comes from taking the step and seeing for yourself that you are capable. That kind of proof changes something deep inside. It becomes a foundation that can't be shaken easily, because once you've seen your own strength, it becomes harder to believe the voice that tells you you're not enough. Resilience is also about recovery. Not every step forward will go smoothly. Sometimes you'll fall, sometimes you'll hesitate, sometimes you'll backtrack. That's not failure, that's part of the process. What matters most is how you respond afterward. Do you judge yourself or do you regroup? Do you shut down or do you reflect and try again? Resilience grows in the way you treat yourself after the fall. It's not about how fast you bounce back. It's about not giving up on yourself in the middle of the mess. The truth is, you don't build strength by avoiding fear. You build it by walking through it with clarity and courage. Not to prove something to the world, but to prove to yourself that you're not fragile, not weak, and not limited to the past. Each time you show up for yourself when it's hard, you become more grounded. You become someone you trust, and that trust turns into power. Power that no one can take from you. There is no perfect timeline for this process. Some fears will take days to overcome. Others may take years. That's okay. The point is to keep moving, to keep facing the edge of what feels safe and stepping beyond it, even just a little, even if your hands shake, even if your voice cracks, because the goal is not to feel fearless, the goal is to act anyway. You don't have to feel fearless to be brave, you just have to move forward with your eyes open and your heart steady. The more you face fear step by step, the more life begins to open up. You say yes to opportunities that once seemed out of reach. You speak your mind when it matters. You stand your ground in difficult moments. You take on challenges not because they're easy, but because you've stopped letting fear make your decisions. And that shift changes everything. It changes how you feel in your own body. It changes how you relate to others. It changes how much of your potential you allow yourself to explore. You deserve to live a life that is not ruled by hesitation. You deserve to make choices from strength, not avoidance. And that kind of life doesn't begin with one big leap. It begins with one small act of courage, repeated over and over until fear becomes just another part of the journey, not the one steering it. This is how you build resilience. This is how you take your power back. And this is how you begin to trust yourself in ways that no fear can ever undo. Chapter 4. Prioritize your needs without guilt or hesitation. There comes a time in life when you have to stop waiting for permission to take care of yourself. You've spent years considering other people's needs, juggling responsibilities, and putting yourself last. You've learned to be strong for everyone else while quietly neglecting your own voice. But strength isn't about self-sacrifice without limits. True strength is knowing when to step back and say, I matter too. And the truth is, your needs are not a burden, an inconvenience, or a sign of weakness. They are valid, they are human, and they deserve to be. You mean no. You stop quietly tolerating things that drain you just to keep the peace. And in doing so, you create a life that's more honest, more fulfilling, and more sustainable. It's not your job to make everyone comfortable at the expense of your own peace. You are not responsible for managing everyone else's reactions to your choices. You are only responsible for making sure those choices are true to what matters most to you. Sometimes people won't understand. Sometimes they'll push back. That's okay. Let them feel what they feel while you stay rooted in your truth. Your needs don't require approval. They require attention. You might notice guilt rising up when you start putting yourself first. That guilt is a conditioned response, not a moral compass. It's a sign that you were taught to ignore yourself, not a sign that you're doing something wrong. When guilt shows up, don't run from it. Recognize it. Talk to it. Tell yourself, I am allowed to care for myself. I am not wrong for needing rest, peace, or space. Then act anyway. The more you practice this, the quieter the guilt becomes. It's not about getting rid of guilt overnight. It's about not letting it dictate your decisions. Prioritizing yourself also means being clear about your boundaries. If something doesn't align with your values or drains your energy, it's okay to decline. You don't need to over-explain. A simple, respectful no is enough. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors that help you decide what enters your life and what stays out. They protect your time, your energy, your focus, and you are allowed to have them, even if others don't like them. Sometimes prioritizing your needs will require disappointing people. That's hard, especially if you're used to being the dependable one, the helper, the person who always comes through. But you are not a machine. You are not an endless resource, and anyone who truly values you will understand when you need to take care of yourself. Those who don't understand are showing you that their comfort matters more to them than your well-being, and that's useful information to have. You're also allowed to want more ease, more support, more fulfillment. You don't have to settle for just surviving. You don't have to accept exhaustion as a way of life. You can choose to create a life that feels good to wake up to, a life where you are not constantly running, constantly fixing, constantly proving, a life that includes you at the center, not just on the edges. Taking care of yourself is not something you earn. It's something you are always worthy of, simply because you exist. You don't have to reach a certain level of success or wait for the right moment. You can start today by asking yourself, what do I need right now? And giving yourself permission to honor that, even in small ways, especially in small ways. Because those small acts of care add up. They build trust with yourself. They remind you that you are not an afterthought. As you begin to prioritize yourself, you may find that some things start to fall away. Commitments that no longer serve you. Relationships that take more than they give. Patterns that kept you stuck. Let them fall. You're not losing anything important. You're clearing space for what truly matters. And what matters most is that you are no longer abandoning yourself to be accepted by others. You don't need to hustle for your worth. You don't need to exhaust yourself to be seen. You are allowed to be a full human being with needs, limits, desires, and dreams. You are allowed to ask for help. You are allowed to rest without earning it. And you are allowed to live a life that feels good, not just one that looks good on the outside.